Hi, everyone. Hello to Jan, hello to Ginny, and to Matt, and to all of you that are there celebrating Dal's life. My name is Matt Stannis. I'm a pastor out near Philadelphia in Valley Forge now, but I grew up a classmate in high school of Ginny's and a member of the youth group at New Life Center over in Ford City. And I had hoped to be there today, but the weather is making it impossible for me to travel back and forth across the state this weekend. And I was so looking forward to seeing so many people that I remember and love so much from my time there in Armstrong County. But I had to send word just of how much Dal meant to me and to my family, and how he showed the love of Jesus just through being the person he was, and his actions really reflect what Jesus is all about, and I'll never forget those things. And I could go on all day listing things that Dal had done for me and for my family, whether it was back when we had first moved to Armstrong County, my mom Nancy, single mom with me and my two younger sisters, and every year on Christmas Eve while we were in Pittsburgh with relatives, Dal would sneak to our house and leave Christmas presents for us that we would open on Christmas morning. To now that I'm married, and my wife Monica, we got married 20 years ago, and when she worked in a bank 20 years ago, about every 2 weeks, the phone would ring at the bank, and it would be Dal just calling to see how she was and how things were going. And just that level of friendship and concern for us, it just meant the world to me. But there is one story that I wanted to tell. I actually told it in a sermon a few months ago when I was reminding the people in my church of the importance of serving one another, and how that's a way that we share God's love and show Jesus to the world. And I asked them to think of a time that made a difference in their life when someone impacted them through their actions and deeds of service. And I knew that I had to tell my own story, but I knew exactly the story I was going to tell because it was a story about Dal Silvis. And it was about 20 years ago. My wife Monica and I were just married. We had been visiting family in the Pittsburgh area, and we were headed back home on a cold, dark Sunday evening. And the way we were driving brought us up through Armstrong County, and we were driving north on 28 to get up to Interstate 80 eventually. And somewhere past Katanning on the way to New Bethlehem, we were going up this hill in the dark, and the car just died. The car broke down in the way that we knew that we were not going to get anywhere anytime soon. And I thought about pulling out my iPhone and calling to get some help, but then I remembered, it was 20 years ago, so that wasn't an option. So we got out of the car and we walked up the hill in the dark to the nearest home. And on the way up, I knew exactly what I had to do. And when we got there and we told the people at the home who welcomed us in what was going on, we got on their phone, called directory assistance 555-1212, and I said, I need the phone number for New Life Center in Ford City, because it was Sunday evening. It was 7:30, and I knew that Dal Silvis would be there. So I called the church, and I just let the phone ring. And it rang and it rang and it rang. I knew that eventually someone would pick it up, and whoever did, I don't know who they were, but thank God for them. And I said, I need to find Dal Silvis. And they set the phone down, and a couple minutes later, a familiar, friendly voice came on the phone, and I said, hey, Dal, it's Matt. And we hadn't seen each other very often because I live 250 miles away now. But I told him I was nearby and what was going on, and Dal said, hang on, I'm on my way. And Dal came, looked at our car, and knew as we did that nothing was going to happen quickly. So Dal got us in his car and drove us back to the Silvis home. And Jan was there, and she had just finished baking a pie. So Monica and I sat down, and we were having pie and at the kitchen table, and realizing that here we were both in our 20s, and it was Sunday night, and both of us had to be at work Monday morning, 250 miles away, and we had no car. And that's when Dal and Jen were talking there in the living room. and they came over, and Dal told us what they were going to do for us. And they gave us their car that evening, and they let us drive that 250 miles home so that we could both make it to work on Monday morning. And I drove Dal's car back and forth to work every day that week. And what I remember so well is on the front of the car there was a license plate that said "My family worships at New Life Center in Ford City, Pennsylvania." It just every day I loved seeing that license plate as I walked out to my car before and after work. While those 5 days were going on, Dal had my car towed. I had it towed down, I think, to the garage with Denton Good, and they had someone look at it, and they knew what was wrong with it, and it was big, and it was a lot more than I could afford to fix at the time. And so Dal then had the car towed out to his farm. He took out an ad. He found someone to buy the car, someone who knew a lot more than I did about how to fix a car. He sold the car, and he found an affordable replacement for me. And the following Saturday, I drove Dal's car back 250 miles there to Slate Lick, and then we went out, and I looked at this other car that Dal had found, and I was able to afford it and bought it, and I was on my way. And it just amazes me, and I thank God just for that act of kindness on the part of Dal and on the part of you as well, Jan, being so generous with what you had to take care of us at a time when we really didn't even have our wits about us. As I shared that story with the people in my church and reminded them, that there are ways that just come naturally out of who we are that allow us to be Jesus in the world. And Dal Silvis really accomplished that for me and for my family in a lot of ways. So please celebrate his life today. Thank God for him. Place him in God's hands and trust in the good news of Jesus and the resurrection. And as I go, I just want to show this here in my office. This has been in my office now for all of my adult life. This is a picture, if you can see it, that is Larry from the Three Stooges, a whole bunch of them in a cereal bowl. And this was a card that I received in the mail as a freshman in college from Dal Silvis. And it simply said on the inside, "Life is a bowl of Larrys." And 30 years later, this still sits framed in a place where I see it every day. And I expect that 30 years from now it'll still be somewhere because that's just the humor and the love that Dal Silvis brought into my life, and I thank God for him. I wish I was there with you all. Thanks for listening. God bless you.